Already City challenge the Blacksite Stealth, Reinforced Doors, Bloodless, and Hidden Detection Bars. But we've got a Lockpick and we've got a Scrambler, which means that for the most part things should be relatively normal. And it's not 50 minutes, so that's always nice since there's not actually any time pressure, which is generally all in all a good thing. But we're just gonna go through here, and as we just try and go across here, it should, for the most part, be... Hi there. So that's essentially Hidden Detection Bars, but then aside from that, there's still Reinforced Doors, which does just mean that we have to lockpick a bit slower, but that's really about it. And then finally there's Bloodless, so we probably shouldn't shoot anyone if that's not already evident, but for now we'll just wait for someone to go, hopefully somewhere convenient since all of the guards are just not over here, which is generally not considered very optimal. So if that guard could just walk all the way across over here, don't stop over there, don't stop over there, and then keep moving, that would be absolutely fantastic. So now that you're here, we're just going to do that, and then we're just going to have you walk over there before you get down, and then afterwards we knock you out. And hopefully no one sees, because that's kind of the whole premise of trying to lure over here, which so far seems relatively successful. Now, I do want to see if I can try and get a key card by taking out the other god, so that's exactly what we're going to do right after this. But first we're going to go across over here to loop this camera over here, just so that... No, we're not doing this. We are not having any of this. You're going to just not care about it, and you're going to be perfectly content with that, so we're just going to go all the way over here. And then we're just going to get looping, which... For the most part, we want everywhere to be relatively clear. If at all possible, which is why we're doing exactly that right now. Which is also why we're going to hop across over here, so that we could go over here and then get that looped over there, which... We could have done that earlier on and then just took out a guard over there, but then again, this is also one way of doing it. And I'm just going to say that so long as both guards over there, that makes things relatively, well, simple to take care of, which is certainly not the case over there. But if you're going to walk... Hi there. And then there is one more guard, which... You should not have a radio. I was planning on backing that up, but regardless, we could just back him up. Take care of the body that we do have to take care of all the way over there. But first, before we do that, make sure we, well, look at a hostage so that they are not going to run away, which... Speaking of which, if you could just follow me right over here, that would be genuinely quite fantastic. So, now that we're in a relatively safe spot, we're just going to do that. We're going to go over here and we're going to grab the key card, and then afterwards, things are going to be, for the most part, relatively simple from there on out. I'm not saying that we actually need a key card, it's just that it's not 50 minutes, we've got the time, and we should just, well, might as well do it. Which is exactly what we're doing, so we're just going to back everyone up. We're going to go through here, and then we're just going to drop it over here before we go down over here again, and then grab this bag over here and bump it up over here, which... It's not heavy bags, so we can do that relatively easily. And now we can just go all the way through here, leave that over there because someone's actually going to come up over here, say hi to you over there, and then say hi to you over there. And thankfully we did not get a second radio, which would be quite detrimental to our goals over here since there was the rather absurd radio from earlier because of that one guard over there, which it's already happened, so we'll just leave it at that and not, well, get too concerned about it, which is probably the most convenient thing to do. So once we're done with this, we're just going to shut the door over there because there is still that one body over there, which even though we don't actually have to clean it up, is still a bit unnerving if anyone goes over there, which... Just to be a bit, well, terrified of what could happen, we're just going to do just that before we go over here and then, well, awkwardly wait for things to be relatively clear. So if you could just walk literally anywhere else right now, that would be genuinely quite fantastic so that we could get a camera looped and then figure out if there's a camera down that corridor, since even though there's not a camera down that corridor, there might be guards over there which might make things a bit more terrifying than we expect, which we're just going to loop this since we have the perfect timing, and for some reason you don't see anything. Which, I mean... I'm happy with that, it's just that right now it's... It's just that right now it's actually bloodless, so that is rather terrifying, because we do have to make sure that we hostage them just in time, because otherwise... Well, otherwise we get caught, which... shockingly, it's not a very good thing, so we're just going to start by bagging this up over here, because we've already bagged that up. We're going to move this over here, And then we're gonna quickly bring this bag all the way inside over there, which, so far, not all that bad. So we'll leave this over here. We'll grab this bag over here, and then afterwards we'll just leave this right over here. And then we've got 2 guards left to take care of, which, I mean, this is quite literally asking for it, so we're gonna just go for it. And then we're just gonna go through here. And then hopefully we won't have 2 guards over here, which we don't, thankfully enough. So if you could just follow me in through here, all the way over here. And then now we've got, well, unfortunately, reinforced stores to take care of, which means that we not only can't use a breaching charge, which is technically possible, we're gonna have to lockpick. And it's going to be relatively slow. Even though all in all, it's still not all that slow, it's just still not all that great. So we're gonna drop it over there. There is technically still 1 guard left over there before everyone starts respawning, but that's fine. So now we're just gonna go over here. Be aware of you over there. Frankly, just ignore your presence, and then afterwards go up over here. And then, well, if you're not gonna see anything, you're very much welcome to just not be aware of anything, which, I must say, quite a good trait. Speaking of which, put your hands up and put your hands up, which, it's one way of doing things, but for now, we're just going to drop this over here, get cell B open, and then afterwards obtain a drill and check all of the other cells, which we're going to start with cell A, and then afterwards we're just going to check cell either C or D, even though it very well might just be cell B, which is the ideal scenario over here. So we're going to get this open, and then frankly we're just going to wait over here because there's not really any, well, if that isn't convenient. So we're just going to make do with exactly that perfection, and then afterwards it's going to be a bit of awkward waiting as we try and have Rose go into the cell, or more accurately go into the control room of the cell block. Even though it's not actually that long of a walk, since we do have cell B rather than, let's just say, cell C or D, which would be considerably longer. But once this opens up over here, we're just going to run through here. And then afterwards we've got 1 more radio to spend because we've only spent 1 so far, and that's what's happening earlier on. So we're just going to go through here, and then afterwards we're just going to see if there's going to be any guards that we might want to take out. So for a start, well, the commander went over there, which I suppose is perfectly fine and completely valid. It's just that it's maybe for the most part a bit unusual. So instead we're just going to go over here, loop every single camera there is, and then afterwards just start formulating a plan that might be a bit safer than, well, suddenly taking out the guard over there, because that is very much possible, and it's not as risky as doing it right out in the open, which is a far less appealing proposition, because that's, where are you going? I could lure you. And maybe I shall. So we're just going to wait for you to just walk past first. And then we're just going to awkwardly wait over here for you to start moving, which... Okay, you know what? How about you just stay over here for just a moment? We're going to drop a keycard over there. And then afterwards, once you walk by, we'll drop the scramble over there. And now in theory, you should go over there, you should grab that up, and then you should put your hands up. And now, although this is not really particularly great, since that's not the best angle relative to that door, we should, for the most part, be okay enough to not feel all that concerned, unless a guard suddenly shows up over here, which I find highly unlikely, but we're just gonna interrogate him real quick. We're gonna knock him out, and then afterwards we're just going to leave the bag in this corner over here. And then, well, this is unfortunately a lockpick door, but it's also unfortunately a spot that could potentially be, so we're just gonna get it open and then afterwards see if it is not. Not all that surprising though, because it's once again not actually a keycard door, but we're just gonna go in here. And unfortunately, All the doors seemingly... Please keep moving. Perfect. Now that the two guards are all awkwardly over there, we could just loop this over here. And then quite frankly, take both of you out because we... Alright, at this point taking it rather slowly. That door is actually a keycard door, so we don't have to be concerned about that, so we can just back this up over here. Back this up over here. And as long as we vaguely have a view over there and just make sure that no one gets on the radio fast enough, we should for the most part be perfectly alright, which is kind of what we're doing right around now. And that should reduce the amount of guards that we have since we did take out a commander already, which means that there are now less guards roaming about if we do actually take them out, which... As appealing as I find it is to take out the third guard over here, maybe we should just hold off on that for a tiny bit of time before we... Well, before we find out that this is in fact a computer room, so it's not actually all that important to take out anyone else. And I'm rather certain that... Hi there. I'm just gonna go right through here because that's not something I want to be involved in. And now because there are two guards over there, there should be presumably less downstairs over here. And well, I'm gonna be assuming that this is a keycard door, which I suppose is perfectly fine, and that is... Well, never mind then, there's only one keycard door, and it's, of course, the one that's, I suppose, the hardest lockpick, so it's not really all that bad, but we're just gonna wait over here. And then Rose is presumably gonna get this open over here, and then we're just going to run through here. And then we're just gonna run out of here. And then afterwards, Rose is gonna awkwardly catch up, and that's the daily challenge done in just over 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Cheers everyone, have a great time!